All praises to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to everyone joining me on this program. This is the Fountain of Israel's Bible Studies program, and as always, it's an honor for me to stand before you on the Lord's holy Sabbath day. Now, this is a little bit different, right? This is the Feast of Dedication, in other words, Hanukkah, right? The Festival of Lights, right? Now, before I even get into this presentation, let me just simply say that this particular observance, and that's all it is, this particular observance isn't a Levitical 23, you have to do this. It's not a commandment in the affirmative or the negative. You don't have to do it. If you don't do it, you're not sinning. If you do it, you're not sinning, right? Because you're gonna have people on both sides of the issue. Some people say it's not necessary. Why would you do that? It's too close to Christmas and all that, which, you know, it has nothing to do with Christmas, but some people are going to feel that way, okay? You're going to have some on the other side and say, hey, you know what? It's just, I don't celebrate any man-made, holidays, but I try to get in as many holy days. I'll get the Leviticus 23, I'll do Purim and Esther, and I'll do the Feast of Dedication, right? So you got people on both sides. They're like, look, if it's coming from the Bible, it is not pagan, so I'm not really worried about it, okay? So it is either way, it's to each his own, and I'm really speaking to the men out there. If you want to observe the Festival of Lights, the Hanukkah, the Feast of Dedication or whatever, get all the images and things from the other people who celebrate, Hanukkah. Don't worry about that, okay? Just because they did it, they co-opted or kidnapped it or whatever, that doesn't mean because they do it doesn't mean that it is pagan, right? Doesn't mean that it's pagan. It's clearly not pagan. It's just that people who look like us in recent years just have not been observing it. Now, again, I don't care if you do it or not. It's not a big deal, okay? I honestly, truly feel that way, right? You can not do it or you can do it. The reason I'm teaching it, just to be clear, the reason I'm teaching it is for those who may consider doing it. I want them to know what they're doing, why they're doing it. In other words, what does it mean? What does Hanukkah mean? What is this festival of life? Where did it come from? Okay, so I want to give a little bit of biblical history, okay, and some other extra sources to give people a holistic idea of where this whole thing came about, how it came about, where it came from, and then we'll touch on some of the other traditions that are out there, whether that is biblical or not, right? So again, I'm going to go ahead and start the lesson, but you don't have to do it. You don't have to observe it. You're not sinning if you don't. But you're also not sinning if you do. It's just an observance, right? It's coming from the Bible, okay? If you do it, it doesn't mean that you're being pagan, right? So it's up to you, okay? It's up to you. So I just want to give a little bit of history, give a little bit of information, a little bit of knowledge on the subject. So without further ado, let's get into the Feast of Dedication, or what we normally say is Hanukkah, okay? But I'm pretty sure in the comment section, I'm still going to get some detractors, but hey, that's how it is. You can't make everybody happy. Feast of Dedication. So we're going to go to Numbers chapter 7, right? And I'm going to read in verse 84 and verse 88. And I want you to look at something here. In 84, it says this. And this was the dedication of the altar in the day when it was anointed by the princes of Israel. 12 chargers of silver, 12 silver bowls, 12 silver spoons of gold, right? Now I'm going to drop down to 88. Now, look at what it says right here. And it says, and all the oxen for the sacrifice of the peace offering were 20, and 4 bullocks, the rams 60, the he-goats 60, the lambs of the first year 60. And this was the what? Dedication of the altar after that it was anointed. Now, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to our King James and the Strongs, right? So let me go, excuse me, to the King James and the Strongs. And let's see, Numbers chapter 7. Let me go over here. Numbers 7. And we're going to what, 84? 84 and 88. Okay, right here. It says 84. When we look at dedication, and it's the Hebrew word 2598. The Hebrew word 2598. And guess what it says? Hanukkah. Hanukkah. So the word is found right here. So we can read, if we read it again, it says this was the Hanukkah of the altar. It means dedication. That's what this is, the feast of dedication. Hanukkah means, or dedication means Hanukkah. Hanukkah means dedication. So if I read 84 again, or if you read it yourself, it'll say, and this was the Hanukkah of the altar in the day when it was anointed, so on and so forth, right? Now let's go to 88. Same thing. If we go to the last line in there, it says, this was the Hanukkah, or dedication of the altar. After that, it was anointed, the Hanukkah of a thing, right? So I just want to show that to you guys. That is the Hebrew 2598. It means dedication or consecration in the lexicon, okay? In the lexicon and in the Strong's, it's consecration or dedication. So that's what it is. And it is them dedicating the temple, right? So when we get to actually this observance of Hanukkah, when you get to the Maccabees, and we'll get there, they were rededicating or re-Hanukkah after they cleanse it after the Grecians, right? So I just want to let you guys have a clear understanding of that. Okay, so let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 7. So we're going to go to 2 Chronicles chapter 7. And let's see, I want to make sure I get to the right one. Second, I'm in first. Let's go on over to second. 2 Chronicles chapter 7. And I just want one verse. Verse 9. 2 Chronicles verse 9. And it says, and in the 8th day they made a solemn assembly, for they kept the dedication or the Hanukkah of the altar 7 days, and the feast 7 days. So again, the dedication, right? The dedication, right? So I'm just letting, and I know this is not the feast of dedication right here. I'm just saying the word and what it means, okay? So I'm not trying to get something by you. I'm not saying that's what it is. So we're going to go to 1 Kings. And really what I'm pointing out, brothers and sisters, what I'm pointing out is that this idea of Hanukkah is really all over the Bible. Anywhere where you see the word dedication, it's Hanukkah, right? It's what it is. It means Hanukkah. So 1 Kings chapter 8. So I don't want someone to think this is some brand new foreign idea. That is not fair to those who may want to observe it, right? So 1 Kings chapter 8 and verse 63. Verse 63, which says this again. And Solomon, or Shlomo, offered a sacrifice of peace offerings, which he offered unto the Lord, 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the children of Israel dedicated the house of the Lord. Consecrated, dedicated, you know, just that's what all of this means, okay? So we are not done. We're going to continue on. Let's go on over to Haggai. And I'm moving along, brothers and sisters, because I actually have a lot of ground to cover. So I have got to keep it pushing. So we're going to go over to Haggai. Haggai chapter 2. Okay, there's only 2 chapters. So we're going to go to Haggai 2. We're going to read 10 through 14. 10 through 14. Chapter 2. Starting at verse 10, which says, in the 4th and 20th day of the 9th month, in the 2nd year of Darius, came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet, saying, thus said the Lord of hosts, ask now the priest concerning the law, saying, if one bear holy flesh in the skirt of his garment, and with his skirt do touch bread or pottage or wine or oil or any meat, shall it be holy? And the priest answered and said, no. Then said Haggai, if one that is unclean by a dead body touch any of these, shall be unclean. And the priest answered and said, it shall be unclean. Then answered Haggai and said, so is this people, and so is this nation before me, says the Lord. And so is every work of their hands, and that which they offer there is unclean. Okay, so they're saying all this stuff is unclean, right? When they taint the sanctuary, when they touch the unclean thing, you know, touch not the unclean thing, right? So that makes things unclean. So when we're not, or when they were not doing it, because we don't do it at all now, but when they were taking care of the business of the temple, right? They had to do it in a particular way as it was prescribed by the Most High Yah, right? They had to do it the way he says it needs to be done. And anytime someone deviated from it, it could make it unclean, which would, of course, displease the Most High Yah, right? So we got to keep that in mind, okay? So let's go on over to Ezra, right? So I just want to point that out real quick, but we want to go on over to Ezra. So let's go back. Ezra. And when we get to Ezra, join me in chapter 6. Join me in chapter 6. Join me in chapter 6, which I'm going to start at 16. I just want 2 verses, 16 and 17. And watch what it says here. And the children of Israel, the priests and the Levites, and the rest of the children of the captivity, kept the dedication of this house of God with joy, and offered at the Hanakkah of this house of God 100 bullocks, 200 rams, 400 lambs, and for a sin offering for all of Israel 12 he-goats, according to the number of the tribes of Israel. So they kept this Hanukkah, the children of the captivity kept the Hanukkah of this house of God with joy. It meant something, okay? Now this is particularly about the temple, right? So let me just go ahead and say early. You're going to get people to say, okay, we're not at the temple. We don't have the temple and all that. I get it. Okay. But remember, it is also a memorial, even with the other feast days that we're supposed to observe and supposed to keep, which, I do my best to try to observe those because it's a memorial, right? Getting into practice, getting into the rehearsing the matter so that it's not foreign, because we can see in the last days when all the nations shall gather and they're going to go up to the mountain of the Lord and celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles and stuff like that, right? So right now, hey, it's a dress rehearsal before we get to the real thing, okay? Or you can do nothing. Okay, there's people up there that are going to do nothing. Well, I can't do it right, so I'm not going to do anything at all. Okay, best of luck to you. More power to you. Okay, there's nothing I can say for you. There's nothing there for me to go back and forth with. Okay, if you don't want to, I can't force you. Besides, I'm not there anyway, so I'm not going to get my blood pressure all up trying to force someone to do something that I cannot enforce. Right, so I'm not going to worry about it. Nehemiah. Let's go to Nehemiah. Okay, Nehemiah. Chapter 12. Join me, Nehemiah chapter 12. I'm just showing you this idea of Hanukkah is throughout the Bible. The word is everywhere. They did dedication, right? And if you should observe it, it's just about the memorial of Israel taking back the temple and cleansing it. And we're going to read that story here in just a second. But first, Nehemiah 27. 27 says this. And at the Hanukkah of the wall of Jerusalem, they sought the Levites out of all their places to bring them to Jerusalem or Yerushalayim to keep the dedication or Hanukkah with gladness, both with thanksgiving and with singing, with cymbals and psalteries and with harps. So music, see, Israel was a very musical people like we are today. Now, a lot of time, most of our music is not so good. It's pretty bad, actually, if I'm honest. But we were very musical person. We celebrated with song and dance and celebrate in glad tidings when we get good news and something good. You know how in some cultures and stuff, like I think some of our East Indian brethren, some of our Samoan, brethren and stuff like that. No, I'm not saying that they're Israel. Relax. But they have certain things, and they do, they have certain yells and things like that. Like Samoans, they have Hakkas and things like that. Hebrew Israel had similar things. They had similar things. Now we can't hear it in the Bible because this is not audible, but they had a particular culture and a particular way they celebrated, a particular way they honored certain things, right? So again, in this, at the Hanukkah of the wall of Jerusalem, at the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem. Now we're going to get into Hanukkah specifically, right? But we're going to pick the story up in 1 Maccabees if you have your Apocrypha. I know not everybody has their Apocrypha. That's okay. I'm going to read it to you, right? But when you get one, you can check behind me. So, and for some of you guys, there's an online Apocrypha too, so you can go in and look it up online. So I'm going to go to 1 Maccabees 2 and 25. 1 Maccabees 2 and 25. Let's see. 1 Maccabees chapter 2. I'm going to start at 25 and then we're going to finish it up. All right, so let's look at this in the Apocrypha. It says also the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice. He killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of God, like Phanes did unto Zambri, the son of Salam. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there, both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because affliction increased sore upon them. Now, when it was told the king's servant and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were gone down into the secret places in the wilderness, they pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. And they said unto them, let that which ye have done hereunto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. Right? But they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Albeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they laid hid. But said, let us die in all our innocency. Heaven and earth will testify for us that they put us to death wrongfully. Now you got to understand, these guys are at this point right now, they are protecting the Sabbath. Okay. And you guys look at the Sabbath day, my Sabbath day lesson, where I go in there and I come into the Apocrypha as well. Right. Look at that Sabbath day, a sign. I forgot to tell. I forgot the title, but just pop in Sabbath in the menu, okay, on the channel, and pop in the Sabbath, and probably one of the latest ones where I do the traditional King James, but I also do the Apocrypha as well, and I really get into the history on the Sabbath being a sign and all that, and it's very serious. And in that they talk about when they attacked the Jews, right? I'm talking about the Romans. I know right here we're talking about the Grecians, but when the Romans attacked them, they attacked it on the day of Saturn, okay? And now from this perspective, a Hebrew is writing it, so he's gonna say they attacked us on the Sabbath. But from a Roman's perspective, they say we attacked them. It seemed like clockwork. We attacked them on the day of Saturn, And what day do we know as the day of Saturn? Exactly. So anyway, that's learning something on the way to learning something. But they loved it so they wanted to honor and keep this law so bad that they would not even fight. Okay? Now you have some people, oh yeah, but they went with the Hebrew calendar. Yeah, but the Grecians didn't go by the Hebrew calendar, which means they would have to learn how to go by the Hebrew calendar and then track it and then attack. Didn't happen. So, but they wanted to protect the Sabbath that much. In verse 38. So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them with their wives and children and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people. Now when Mattathias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us up out of the earth. I mean, we're going to go extinct. If we do nothing and they just keep on slaughtering us because we're not fighting back, we're going to be done. We're going to be annihilated. Okay, 41. At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against them, neither will we die all, as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places, right? So they said, nah, we got to fight, because we're going to die out if we don't fight, right? Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law, right? So they got some reinforcements there, right? Also, all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them and were a stay unto them. So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger and wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathen for succor. Then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars. And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hands. See, I look like the Most High was kind of blessing them at that point, but hey, let's continue to read. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of the kings. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. Okay, so they had to fight back this evil, right? Even if it meant on a Sabbath day. Now, when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. Now, therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. 51. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time, so shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name. So they did this, and we're remembering them right now. They did great and mighty and powerful things that we're reading about right now. So what he said came true. We're reading about it now, centuries later, right? Because they were zealous for the law and they wanted to protect it. And all we're doing right now is memorializing it, if you want, okay? So, 52. Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness? Joseph, in a time of his distress, kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt. Phinehas, our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Was it Jesus, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel? I don't think it's the same. It's not the same one. Same Jesus, guys. Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land. David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. Elias, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. Talking about Elijah. Ananias, Azarias, and Masael, by believing were saved out of the flame. Okay, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Daniel, for his innocency, was delivered from the mouth of lions. And thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms. Today he shall be lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found, because he is returned into his dust, and his thoughts is come to nothing. Wherefore, ye my sons, be valiant and show yourselves men in the behalf of the law, for by it shall ye obtain glory. Man, loving and upholding this law, this is how you will obtain glory. And you got some butter muffins out there right now telling you ain't got to worry about the law. It's all done for you. Jesus has paid it all. You know, just lying on your shoe. But that's okay. That's okay. We got it. You got it. But let's look at 65. And behold, I know that your brother Simon is a man of counsel. Give ear unto him always. He shall be a father unto you. As for Judas Maccabeus, he has been mighty and strong even from his youth up. Let him be your captain and fight the battle of the people. Take also unto you all those that observe the law, and avenge ye the wrong of your people. Avenge ye the wrong of your people. Recompense fully the heathen, and take heed to the commandments of the law. So he blessed them and was gathered to his fathers. And he died in the 146th year. 146th year. And his sons buried him in the sepulchres of his fathers at Modin. And all Israel made great lamentations for him. Okay, so we're going to look at, and we're not done. We're going to look at this. Okay, so this is Mattathias, Mattathias, and he's going to, or he transitioned. Okay, he transitioned to power. He put Simon, because he was basically the wise man. He's smart. He's going to give advice. And then you got Judas Maccabees, who's the warrior. Okay, so you got the two people who you need to follow, right? You got the man who's wise, maybe a strategist. Okay, but he was wise. He had the wisdom. And then Judas Maccabees had the strength, right? He's the mighty warrior. So you have that. So we're going to go to Maccabees 4, and we're going to start at verse 5. Go to 1 Maccabees chapter 4, and then we're going to start at verse 5. Okay, so It says, and in the mean season came Gorgias by night into the camp of Judas. And when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains, for he said, these fellows flee from us. But as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their minds. And they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong and well harnessed, and compassed round about with horsemen, and these were experts of war. Then said Judas to the men that were with him, fear ye not their multitude, neither be ye afraid of their assault. Right? So this guy here, Judas, this guy here, this guy make you run through the wall for him. Verse 9, remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea, and when Pharaoh pursued them with an army. Now therefore let us cry unto heaven, if peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and destroy this host before our face this day. That so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saved Israel. Then the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw them coming over against them. Wherefore they went out of the camp to battle, but they that were with Judas sounded their trumpets. So they joined battle, and the heathen, being discomforted, fled into the plain. See, they didn't even have weapons. They didn't have nothing. Okay? The wicked flee when nobody pursuing, right? Howbeit, all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword, okay? For they pursued them unto Gezerah, and unto the plains of Idumea, and Azotus, and Jamnia, so that there were slain of them upon a 3,000 men. This done, Judas returned again with his host from pursuing them, and said to the people, be not greedy of the spoil, insomuch as there is a battle before us. Right? Don't take too much of the stuff. I know, we killed a bunch of them, but don't take too much, because we still got a lot of fighting to do. Right? Okay. So they had, you guys get it. 18. And Gorgias and his hosts are here by us in the mountain. But stand ye now against our enemies and overcome them. And after this ye may boldly take the spoils. As Judas was yet speaking these words, there appeared a part of them looking out of the mountain, who, when they perceived that the Jews had put their host to flight and were burning the tents, for the smoke that was seen declared what was done. When therefore they perceived these things, they were sore afraid, and seeing also the host of Judas in the plain ready to fight, they fled every one into the land of strangers. Then Judas returned to spoil the tents, where they got much gold and silver and blue silk and purple of the sea and great riches. After this they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving and praised the Lord in heaven, because it is good, because his mercy endured forever. Wow. Sounds nice. Sounds familiar, right? And 25. Thus Israel had a great deliverance that day. Hallelujah, right? Now all the strangers that had escaped came and told Lysias what had happened, who, when he heard thereof, was confounded and discouraged, because neither such things as he would were done unto Israel, nor such things as the king commanded him were come to pass. The next year, therefore, following Lysias, gathered together 70,000 choice men of foot and 5,000 horsemen, that he might subdue them. So they came into Idumea and pitched their tents at Bethsura, and Judas met them with 10,000 men. And when he saw the mighty army, he prayed and said, blessed art thou, O Savior of Israel, who didst quell the violence of the mighty man by the hand of thy servant David, and gavest a host of strangers into the hands of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his armor bearer. Shut up this army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power and horsemen. Make them to be of no courage, and cause the boldness of their strength to fall away, and let them quake at their destruction. Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. So they joined the battle, and there was slain of the host of Lysias about 5,000 men. Even before them were they slain. Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judas' soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochus and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was, he purposed to come again into Judea. Then said Judas to his brethren, behold, our armies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into the Mount Zion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profane and the gates burned up and shrubs growing in the courts as in the forest or in one of the mountains, yea, the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentations and cast ashes upon their heads and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces and blew an alarm with the trumpets and cried toward heaven. It was revolting to them. It was absolutely horrific to them. They had this is obviously this disdain for their enemies because of the utter disrespect they had for something so holy. It was a really, really dark, at that time, it was a really, really dark time. They could feel the obtenebration. And they lamented. They couldn't have, they were filled with sorrow and grief and anguish. And when they do that, they rend their clothes and they have lamentation. They're crying, put ashes on their head. This is all bad. This is sad. This is sorrow and anguish, right? 41. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation or lifestyle, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary and bared out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when they and as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profaned, they thought it's best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Remember what we read back in Haggai, right, in Ezra. Wherefore they pulled it down and laid up the stones in the mountains of the temple in a convenient place until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former, right? Just like the former. And made the sanctuary and all the things that were within the temple and hallowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense and the table. And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. So this is where you get your menorah, your candlestick, right? Because menorah is a candlestick. Okay, 7 points, and we'll read that too. So the menorah is the candlestick. So this is what you just read, or what I just read, and you followed along, was they rededicated the temple. Okay, that's what I want to show you. They rededicated. So now I'm going to go on up to Maccabees chapter 5. I'm going to go to Maccabees chapter 5. Let's see here. Maccabees 5. Let me go back to it, because I did actually want to get up to 59. So let me get all. I stopped at 50. We're going to go up a little further, and then we'll go to chapter 5. So 51. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the tablet and spread out the veils and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now, on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Keslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and cisterns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had given them good success. Hallelujah, right? 56, I'm sorry. And so they kept the dedication or Hanukkah of the altar 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness and the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with what? Crowns of gold. Remember that symbols, crowns of gold, and with shields, or goals and shields. And the gates and the chambers were renewed and hang doors upon them. Okay, so some people, and I'm saying when they dedicate their home and memorial, they'll have crowns of gold, crowns of silver, stuff like that. Just giving you guys ideas in case you want to. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and go to chapter 5, starting at 63. First Maccabees 5, 63 to 68. Okay, First Maccabees chapter 5, 63, starting at 63 and then finishing it out. All right, it says, albeit the man Judas and his brethren were greatly renowned in the sight of all Israel, as of all the and of all the heathen, wheresoever their name was heard of, insomuch as the people assembled unto them with joyful acclamations. Afterward, when went Judas forth with his brethren and fought against the children of Esau in the land toward the south, where he smote Hebron and the towns thereof, and pulled down the fortress of it, and burned the towers thereof round about. From thence he removed to go into the land of the Philistines, and passed through Samaria. At that time certain priests, desirous to show their valor, were slain in battle, for they that went out to fight unadvisedly. So they just went on upon themselves, right? So Judas turned to Azotus in the land of the Philistines, and when he had pulled down their altars and burned their carved images with fire and spoiled their cities, he returned into the land of Judea. Okay, so he returned to the land of Judea. So where we're going after that, we're going to go to 2 Maccabees chapter 1, right? So we're going to go to 2 Matthew chapter 1, and we're going to read the first 18 verses. So we're going to go to 2 Maccabees chapter 1, okay? And we're just going to do the first 18 verses. All right, so let's go ahead and finish this up here. And it says, the brethren, the Jews that be at Jerusalem and in the land of Judea, wish unto the brethren, the Jews that are throughout Egypt, health and peace. God be gracious unto us, and remember his covenant that he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, his faithful servants. And give you all a heart to serve him and to do his will with a good courage and a willing mind. And open your hearts in his law and commandments, and send you peace. And hear your prayers, and be at one with you, and never forsake you in time of trouble. And now we be here praying for you. What time as Demetrius reigned in the 169th year, we, the Jews, wrote unto you in the extremity of trouble that came upon us in those years, from the time that Jason and his company revolted from the Holy Land and kingdom, and burned the porch and shed innocent blood. Then we prayed unto the Lord and were heard. We offered also sacrifices and fine wine, and lighted the lamps, and set forth the loaves. And now see that ye keep the Feast of Tabernacles in the month of Caslu. Keep the Feast of Tabernacles in the month of Caslu. Okay, so this is all a part of it, guys. In 184 year, the people that were at Jerusalem and in Judea, and the council and Judas, sent greetings and health unto, this is written real small right here, Aristobulus, King Ptolemaeus, master, who was of the stock of the anointed priests, and to the Jews that were in Egypt. Sorry, couldn't see it right there. Verse 11. Insomuch as God has delivered us from great perils, we thank him highly, as having been in battle against a king. For he cast them out that fought within the holy city. For when the leader was come into Persia, and an army with him that seemed invincible, they were slain in the temple of Nehemiah by the deceit of Nehemiah's priest. For Antiochus for Antiochus, as though he would marry her, came into the place, and his friends that were with them to receive money in name of a dowry, which then the priest of Nehemiah had set forth, and he was entered with a small company into the compass of the temple. They shut the temple as soon as Antiochus was come in. Okay, 16. And opening a privy door of the roof, they threw stones like thunderbolts and struck down the captain, hewn them in pieces, smote off their heads, and cast them to those that were without. Blessed be our God in all things, who had delivered up the ungodly. They were happy about that. And then in 18, therefore, whereas we are now purposed to keep the purification of the temple upon the 5th and 20th day of the month of Keslu, we thought it necessary to certify you thereof, that ye also might keep it as the Feast of Tabernacles and of the fire, which was given us when Nehemiah offered sacrifice, after that he had builded the temple and the altar. Okay, so this is where they would admonish us to try to keep it just like we keep the Feast of Tabernacles, right? So he's saying, they're pretty much saying the same thing. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out to you guys so you can see it. All right, so let's see how much time we have here, because we also have a little bit of an article, and let me go to it right now. And this right here, this is the Maccabean Revolt, right? Maccabean Revolt. Let's see here. This is that's the Wikipedia one. I didn't really want that one. Let's go with the World History Encyclopedia. Okay, World History Encyclopedia. All right. So we're gonna look at it now. We're gonna get some dates and times and things like that. The Maccabean Revolt. I'm gonna read a little bit of it, but it's the World History Encyclopedia, and it says the Maccabean Revolt of 167 to 160 BCE. Right. So 7 years. Was a Jewish uprising in Judea against the repression of the Seleucid Empire. The revolt was led by a country priest called Matthias, and his military followers became known as Maccabees. Successful, Jerusalem was captured and the Temple of Jerusalem reconsecrated, an act still commemorated today in the Jewish Hanukkah festival, right? So that's something they still do. Now watch this. After the death of Alexander the Great, his kingdom was divided into 4 during the wars of the Didache. The wars of the Didache. Egypt, the Seleucid Empire, the kingdom of Pergamon and Macedon, including Greece. Egypt, governed by Ptolemy, Soter, all allowed for Judaism in Jerusalem to flourish with very little intervening in the 3rd century BCE, which is why when you get to the New Testament, they were still able to practice their customs, right? Practice their, well, not a religion, but you get what I'm saying. However, during the 2nd century BCE, the Seleucids, having gained dominance over Judea, went to enforce dominion over Egypt and the Jews. So that's where you get this whole war and stuff like that. Jews under Ptolemaic rule, right? Theocracy and politics were intertwined in the 2nd century BCE in Jerusalem. The social structure of Jerusalem was run by the Jewish aristocracy, such as the priests and the high priests, although Hellenism, which had spread in the 3rd century BCE after Alexander's conquest, was the dominant culture. And that's when they say Jews got Hellenized, right? Dominant culture around Judea, and the Greek way of life pervaded the area. The Jewish community remained steadfast to their own practices. They largely ignored Hellenism, and under Alexander and the Ptolemaic dynasty were respected in doing so. The Ptolemies gave the Jewish people their civil rights, and they lived contently under their rule, right? So they were able to do that. Some of them did go the other way, right? They got Hellenized, some of them, but they made it seem like every Hebrew was Hellenized, and that's not true. The Second Temple of Jerusalem was the most important structure to the entire Jewish community. It was the social and religious center of the Jewish people, not to mention the economic benefits of trading in the temple. More importantly, however, it was considered a sign of God's presence among them. This feeling of the elect, the chosen ones, was crucial to the Jewish self-conscious. Okay? Then let me just go right. Skip down a little bit. I'm going down to the rebellion here. Okay, you guys can read the extra history on your own. Although many of the Jewish community were at this point Hellenized, okay, many Hellenized, the persecution of the Jewish people and the destruction of practicing Judaism united the Jewish people in Judea. The Jewish people needed someone to lead them. When Antiochus sent some of his officers to the town of Medine to lay down his tyranny and enact the oppressive laws that he had enforced, he was met by a local Jewish country priest named Mattathias. This turned out to be a very portentous meeting. The country priest was ordered to fulfill his duty to the state and be the first to sacrifice an animal to an altar of an idol. He refused, and when another Jewish man stepped forward to do it, he murdered the officer. Tearing down the idol, Mattathias preached, "Let everyone who is zealous for the law and who stands by the covenant follow me." Mattathias says, we are not having it. It is not today. You are not going to sacrifice something to an idol in this temple. Not on my watch. Hallelujah. It says the Jewish people had their leader. He and his 5 sons, John, Simon, Judah, Eleazar, and Jonathan, rallied the Jewish population. In 167 BCE, the Jewish people rose up with Mattathias as their leader. Soon after 167 BCE, the family of Mattathias became known as the Maccabees, or the Hammer. They recruited tough Jewish people on the way and began a guerrilla war as they started to take over the northern village of Judea. They tore down the altars of idols and killed those who worshiped them. Even many Hellenistic Jews, right? So you riding with them, then you got to go too, right? Mattathias died in 166 BCE, but just before death, he left Judah in charge of his army. Antiochus underestimated the severity of the rebellion and the size of the strength of the Jewish army. Instead of crushing them with full force of his armies, he set his less effective generals on them. Judah, a wise and courageous military general, defeated them with commensurate ease. Antiochus was made to look foolish. As a response, he set out to examine the Jewish population in Judea. Antiochus sent for his most glorified general, Lysias, and around 6,000 Lusid soldiers to try and do just that. Judah was severely outnumbered. However, the familiarity of Judea was a huge advantage for the Jewish army. Using the slight hills and the superior knowledge of the area, they outmaneuvered the Seleucids, and slowly they picked them off. Finally, they came to battle. Judah had gathered another 7,000 Jewish rebels, but they were still outnumbered by at least 5-1. As Judah stood there looking at the masses, so the story goes, he prayed to God for victory. We read that. The Jewish people overcame the massive difference in manpower to secure an almost impossible victory over Seleucid Empire and over Antiochus. After the defeat, Antiochus' armies were devastated. They met again with Judah's army. Army was at the gates of Jerusalem, but it was a much shorter battle. The Seleucids were bereft of hope as Judah drove the enemy out of the holy city. The Jewish army had defeated Lysias. When Judah and his brothers went to the temple, he saw the destruction and defilement that Antiochus caused upon it and was overwhelmed by grief. 1 Maccabees 4. On 25th December 165 BCE, after months of work clearing and cleaning, the temple was finally rededicated to God. Their celebrations continued for 8 days, as it is known to this day as the celebration of Hanukkah. As it was known to this day, the celebration of Hanukkah. Are you guys getting that? Okay? Are you getting it? See, that's how it all came about. Okay, that's how it all came about. So let's go ahead and take a look, and we'll start wrapping this whole lesson up for you. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and take a look. Okay, so we did that. Now we're gonna go to Exodus 25, and let's take a look at this whole menorah. Right, let's take a look at this menorah. So Exodus 25, and we'll start closing it out. We might run over an hour a little bit, but hey, where are you guys going, right? Exodus 25, 24, there's 25. Exodus 25, I'm going to read 31 to 40. Okay, 31 to 40. Let's take a look at this. I want you guys to pay attention to the description, right? In 31, it says, "And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold. Of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches and his bowl, his knobs and his flowers shall be of the same. And 6 branches shall come out of the sides of this. 3 branches of the candlestick on one side, 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side." Okay, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, right? 3 bowls made like unto almond, with a knob and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch with a knob and a flower. So in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick, right? 34. "And in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds with their knobs and their flowers. And there shall be a knob under 2 branches of the same, and a knob under 2 branches of the same, and a knob under 2 branches of the same," meaning they're just alike. They need to be look uniform, right? "According to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick." 6 branches. You got 1 candlestick in the middle, then you got 3 on each side coming out, right? You see the picture of the menorah, right? Okay. 36. "Their knobs and their branches shall be of the same. All it shall be one beaten work of pure gold. And thou shalt make the what? 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, and that they may give light over against it. And the tongs thereof and the snuff dishes thereof shall be of pure gold. Of a talent of pure gold shall he make it with all these vessels, and look that thou make them after their pattern, which was shown thee in the mount." Right? So he's actually showing him exactly how to make a menorah, right? So it's total 7 candlesticks, the one right in the middle and the 3 that comes out of the side. So what you're going to find is you're going to find a lot of 9 candlesticks. The other guys made that, right? There's no 9 candlesticks in this, right? We don't do the whole 9 candlesticks. So what we have to do is we have to go ahead and remember what we're doing here, and understand that they need to follow instruction. Okay? They need to follow the instruction, right? So let's go over to John, because we got to get a little bit of New Testament, right? Little bit of New Testament. So we can start finishing up here. Let's go over to John. We have got to get some New Testament, which would be chapter 10. Chapter 10. Okay, now, in chapter 10, I'm going to read verses 22 and 23. 22 and 23. Now, all this happened. We looked at what dedication and what it meant. You know, it means Hanukkah, and we look at in different spots in the Old Testament. And then we looked at the whole story of it, how it all came to be in the Apocrypha, right? In the 1st and 2nd Maccabees, right? And then we just looked at the World History Encyclopedia. We just looked that up as well, right? So now we're going to go to the New Testament, and I want you guys to notice something here. Okay, so we're in John 10 and 22, 23. 22 says this: "And it was at Jerusalem the feast of dedication, and it was winter." So we know it's at what time of year it was, okay? What time of year was it? And it was winter, okay? So it's at the end of the year. Okay, and watch this. "And Yeshua walked in the temple in Solomon's porch." All right, now you can read the rest of it, whatever, and guess what? He didn't get after them, didn't curse them out, didn't chase them out, or nothing like that. They're observing the temple. They're observing the Feast of Dedication. And when the Yeshua has something to say about something, if he disagreed with something, when did he have trouble voicing his thoughts on something he disagreed with? So that's what we have to understand. Now I know, of course, a lot of people say, well, there's a temple there. I'm just saying at that time they were not doing anything wrong, right? Because if we keep reading or whatever, it said, then came the Jews round about him and said unto him, how long dost thou make us to doubt? If thou be Christ, tell us plainly. And Jesus answered unto him and all that. Okay, so he wasn't like, okay, you guys get out of here. We ain't doing this whole dedication thing. Stop it. Stop celebrating this. Don't do this. This is pagan. It's not right. We ain't doing this no more, right? So they were still doing it. My point is that they were still doing it even at the time of the Messiah, right? The first advent. So they were still doing it. Now I know some people, they can say, I'm not doing it because we don't have access to the temple. We're not at the temple. We're not doing it. Guess what? If you saw the first part of this lesson, when I first started, I said, you don't have to do it. You're not sinning if you don't, but I can't show you that it's a sin if you do, right? Because you're memorializing the temple, right? You're just remembering, okay, yeah, we had that. Now there's going to be a new temple and all that. Now, yeah, I'm a leader. I don't want to digress, okay? I'm just going to continue. I don't want to digress. So, with the rest of the time, for those who want to memorialize it, they say, okay, well, what do I do? Do you have any ideas or anything like that? Remember, these are just ideas. These are just suggestions. You do what you want to do. Again, this is a take it or leave it type thing. There is no sin either way that I can find. I can't find a sin either way. And usually when people say, oh, this is wrong, this whatever, it's usually their opinion, right? So either way, I can't find anything either way, right? So again, let me just simply say, it is not a law, okay? This is not a law. This is just memorialized. This is not a part of the Most High's plan of salvation, okay? But here are the ideas, okay? Some people do one gift every day for 7 days, right? Some people shy away from it because it's too much like pagan holiday, right? But I get it. You can have a pajama night, okay? You can have a pajama night, okay? The whole family, y'all just you wear your pajamas or something like that, or have a new set, just get a new set of pajamas or whatever. It's up to you. It's up to you. It says place menorahs around the house, menorah type lights, okay? Just menorah type lights. So if you get the other lights, just make them plain white, not the colorful ones or whatever. Hang them around the house, inside, outside if you want to, okay? No Christmas lights, okay? No Christmas lights. The exception is that they have lights that are just, white, right? Just clear, just white. None of the green and blue and red and all that stuff, right? Forget that. Okay, scripture study of the Maccabean Revolt, this lesson with a discussion on the first night. So this lesson right here on the, the first night you do it, look at the lesson just so you can understand what it is, okay? Just understand what it is. Then you want some kosher feast on the last night. But prepare a feast just like you would do some of our other feast days with clean foods. Just prepare a special meal. And then, or allow the children to light menorahs. You can do that. You can if you want real menorahs with real candles and stuff like that, just have them light menorahs. And come up with your own family tradition as long as it has no pagan origins, right? Okay, you can come up with a family tradition. This is to each man his own house, right? So not everyone's going to do it. Hey, if you don't want it in your house, man, I'm not telling you what to do or not to do. It's your choice. It's up to you. 8, board game night. Just play, one of the nights, just board game, family board game night if you want. How about arts and craft night? Okay, build a model of the temple, or what you, or draw it or paint it or something. Build a model of the temple, however you want. Okay, we're memorializing it, so let's do that. Book night. Okay, gift book or read to each other. Pick a book or whatever, and everybody take a turn and read. Okay, read a little bit. Okay, come together. Read it by candlelight, right? Let's see here. Pay it forward day, okay? Feed or help others or volunteer as a family. The whole family. Just go feed or help another family. Do something. Show that generosity, right? Show that. Pay it forward. Cook some tradition. Some traditional family food as a family with the menorah candlelight, okay? With menorah candlelight only. Like, so cook it, but only by menorah candlelight. Cook as a family. Make a family meal, right? Let's see, quiet night, okay? No social media, no distractions, just talk together as a family. That's it. Just talk together as a family, nothing else, right? Or like a spa night, right? Where you just pamper each other, okay? Just pamper each other. However that looks to you, that's up to you, okay? I'm not gonna get into that. Another one, pray as a family each night, right? Sing, praise, dance to the Most High all together. Celebrate, throw on some music, sing, pray, dance, all that, right? Have a, a drink or something, have some wine or something. You know, you get what I'm saying. Wear some Feast of Dedication T-shirts. Wear some T-shirts or something like that. Make it or buy them. You know, each year until you have 7, and then you can wear a different one each day on the Feast of Dedication. You can wear a different shirt each day. You can just buy one a year. Some of us, you know, some of you guys got big families. We buy one T-shirt every year or so often until you have 7, and then wear one like every day, right? So that's what I got. You know, that's what I got as far as some ideas in case you want to observe it. So with that, we learned where it comes from. We learned that Hanukkah simply just means dedication. Okay, we know that they did a lot of dedication in the Old Testament. We jumped around a bit so you guys can see that, right? We went in the Old Testament, okay, and in the Tanakh, right? We went to Tanakh, we went to Torah. We also went into the Apocrypha to see where the whole story came from. We looked at the Maccabean Revolt, and then we went outside the Bible, went to the World Book and Encyclopedia, and looked at the Maccabean Revolt. I suggest you go there. You can read the whole thing, right? But I wanted to hit the highlights. And then we went to the New Testament in one spot in John where we looked and saw the Messiah was there also, where they were observing it, and he did not rebuke them for observing it. So, in conclusion, you can celebrate it or not. If you want to memorialize it, fine. If you don't, that is fine, okay? Don't begrudge your brother or sister if they decide to do it. And if you're one who does it, don't begrudge or rebuke your sister or brother who decides not to do it. This is to each his own. It's just in your family household, okay, brothers and sisters? So let's go ahead and appreciate one another. I mean, one just want to remember, hey, this is a great victory. The Most High was with them. They took back the temple. It could be, you know, it could have been annihilated. You know, they were not fighting on the Sabbath. And all of a sudden they said, you know, we're going to get wiped out. We need to fight. Even though it's a Sabbath, we need to fight. We got to do it to his glory. I mean, we wouldn't even be here, right? We could be wiped out, right? So, and thanks to them that we still do have some tradition, and we still have our scriptures, right? That is not wiped out of existence. Without it, we wouldn't know who we are today. We would not know who we are today without our scriptures, right? So, with that, brothers and sisters, I hope that you got something out of it. I hope you got the meaning of it. I hope you got a deeper understanding. I would encourage you to study it out a little bit more. So until next time, search the scriptures, improve all things. Shalom, Israel.